Hello, everybody. My name is Anna Bryce, and I am the VP of Programming, although that will be changing shortly to the VP of Communications. And I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for attending and take the time out. We have a really great presentation for you today, and I know we are all excited. All of us on the American Marketing Association board is very excited to hear Niki Ramirez, and we thank her for joining us and taking the time to give this presentation. I want to very quickly thank our sponsors. I won't go through them all here, but they help us all year long, and they are the reason we are able to present the educational program that we do. And I particularly want to thank Taylor Wellman, who is our host here from Financial Potion. If you have any video needs, please do not hesitate to reach out to Taylor. And I want to say hi to Eileen Burke, because I know she's on the webinar with us today, and she is our graphic design sponsor. So everything you see graphically, Eileen is responsible for. And we also want to thank our supporters. These are the companies that help us, everyone who's a board member, they have the support of their company to do what they do to keep the AMA up and running. So thank you. And I just want to get right into it. I would like to introduce Niki Ramirez, who is the founder and principal consultant of HRAnswers.org. And she is a human resources professional with over 20 years experience in this field. And what she does is help companies with the people side of business. That's really the hardest part about business, is the people in business. And she works with companies to help create an impactful and practical approach to balancing employees and employers' needs. That is no easy task. So without going further into this, I am going to just throw it over to Niki. And Niki, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Anna. Really happy to be here. Yeah. So my career in human resources has been nothing short of an adventure. So when you say HR and taking care of people is the most important thing, I can't argue with that. I'm a little biased, but I cannot argue. You know, if we take care of our people in business, our people take care of us. They take care of our clients. And to be honest with you, I think that's how we all build a better world. So I think that work is such a big piece of people's lives that if we can focus on being good team members, good leaders, good bosses, that just spills out into our communities, and it creates workplaces that people love, and it creates communities and neighborhoods that people love. So that's why I do what I do. And so I have been in the Phoenix area for 25 years. About 2 weeks ago, I had my 25-year anniversary. So super happy to be a Phoenician at this point. I came from Minnesota. So I grew up first in Minnesota, moved here to go to college to study Espanol. So if we have any other Spanish speakers here, we can hablamos todo en español también. So we can do it all whichever way you want. But I just love to be here. I appreciate the invitation. All right. So thanks again for joining. This is definitely a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and let me tell you why. So my background in human resources was really built through a career in operations. So I started out as an operations manager type individual, working for the city of Tempe and the Kyrene School District, working for community programming. So like Kids Club, Kids Zone, if you've ever seen those programs or been in them yourself, that's where I worked first. And as my career propelled itself almost, unintentionally toward human resources as a specialty, I noticed that there was one thing that if we focused on it consistently throughout our careers and throughout the growth in our positions, whatever position it was, there was one sort of thing or one area of growth that could really help us make a big impact, and that was soft skills. So we have, of course, the opportunity to pick up technical skills, right? Like I can use a million different HRIS systems, HR information systems, the technology behind HR. I can use benefit systems. You can train me to use any benefit systems in the world, whatever it might be, a payroll system, anything we need to run people programs. And that's one piece of work and life and success. But I think when we really make a big impact in our workplace and on our teams, that it is because we have spent time focusing on the development of our soft skills. And I come to you from a place where, I mean, I studied Spanish undergrad. I have a bachelor's degree in Spanish with a minor in business, and then I got an MBA. And to this day, you will find me still honing my soft skills. I still take workshops in different soft skills. I have a PR coach. I have a marketing coach that helps me to be more approachable, that helps me to be a better speaker, you know, to do the things that I know make a difference in the relationships that I build, both for work and for business. So I'm super excited to share this topic with you because I feel like if we can really come together and commit to developing our soft skills long-term, like there's no end, you're never going to graduate from soft skill development, then you will absolutely pick up exactly what you need along the way to get to whatever you identify as the pinnacle or the peak of your career. So thank you, Anna, for the introduction already. I just wanted to share a couple photos and give you a little bit more of an idea of who I am super quick. I am a Sun Devil, so if any other Sun Devils out there, please wave your flags, show me your colors. I live in the Southeast Valley with my family, my husband of 20 years and my 3 kids. I have kids that are 12, almost 16 in like a couple weeks, and 17. So busy all the time running my business. HRanswers.org is an HR consulting firm. We are a full service firm, provide all sorts of options for small and large businesses, including employee coaching. So the session I'm bringing to you today is actually reflective of the type of sessions that I deliver to my clients' employees and the coaching sessions that I host when we have one-on-ones. So super excited to share this with you guys and see what you think you might take away. And here's what I hope that we're going to take away today. So our plan is really to give some ideas or refresh some ideas that you might use to be able to best
We're in Indiana right now.
manage your time. I also want to spend a bit of time focusing on the impact that you might have on your success if you develop a really keen awareness of your energy levels and understand how that impacts your productivity. And then we're going to talk about a strategy or a framework or a technique that you might be able to employ to help you determine priorities and do some creative problem solving. And so these topics were sort of born out of lots of hands-on, feet on the ground interaction with my clients, but also research. So research, shows us and tells us lots of good things. And some of the information that I gather on a regular basis is what are employers looking for? What are leaders looking for in their team members? If I'm going to select someone to be a new member of my team, what are the attributes, the attitudes, the characteristics, the aptitudes that I want them to have? And these are reflective of those aptitudes. So that's what we're going to focus on for today. And I would love for you guys, and I know Taylor's monitoring the chat for us, but feel free to share. You know, if there's something that prompted you to sign up for this particular session, in order to make sure that we capture it, we cover it, I want you to drop it in now. So before I tell you what I'm going to share, what are you hoping to get out of our time together today with regard to using soft skills to propel your career, your success? And then at the end, if we haven't touched on it yet, I'll be happy to give you my top tips in that area. So feel free to drop it in there. I'm not going to monitor the chat right now, but we'll get back to that at the end to make sure that everybody is taken care of. I know everybody's joined for different reasons. And, you know, like I said, we're all hopefully on this very long path of career development. So like I said already, I'm also jaded here as an HR professional. I really believe that soft skills are the key to our success here in our work lives. And to be honest with you, I also believe that soft skills are the key to our success in our personal lives too, because when we exercise great, communication skills and time management and things like that, then we can honor all the people in our lives, whether it's our partner, our kids, our parents, or somebody else. So when we look at that survey, the data that I've been collecting to say what are the most important soft skills that we should be focusing on. So first, time management. So that's a pretty simple and like bland title for it, right? Our marketing friends here can do better than that, but it's time management. Planning and goal setting is also top of the list. And then making tough decisions, prioritizing, and creative problem solving. I went ahead and lumped them all together so that we could get a lot more in 3 bullets. But these are the things that on day one, that a leader, a manager, your boss, your team member, your coworker, nobody wants to teach us this. We need to show up prepared to exercise our skills and prepared to show what we can do with regard to time management. Somebody talks to us about priorities, we need to be able to take a conversation and turn that into a plan or a goal, and then move on it by making decisions about prioritizing our work. And as we run into barriers, how do we problem solve? How do we get around conflict? How do we get around problems that come up in the workplace? So those are our top 3 that we're going to be talking about today. But if you are an overachiever, and you would like to go further than that, I wanted to give you some of the additional tops. So 3 more bullets to share with you, 3 more ideas. Other soft skills that really help you stand out from the crowd if you're going to seek a promotion, if you are going to seek even a contract with a new client, if you're running your own business like I am maybe, your communication skills, your written communication, your verbal, and your presentation skills are going to take you far. Being adaptable and flexible are also key soft skills that people can build over time. For many of us, being adaptable, being flexible is not a natural style. Like, I am the person that if we go to lunch together and you tell me we're going to go and we're going to meet at Cafe Rio, and then you text me on the way and you say, you know what, let's meet at Chipotle. I'm going to be like, whoa, I was kind of already planned out the menu. I kind of don't want to meet you at Chipotle. And then I remember I need to be flexible. So adaptability and flexibility. Responsibility and accountability are also top of the list. And those are a little bit different from a technical perspective, right? So as an HR practitioner and a coach, a success coach for employees, teaching responsibility and accountability oftentimes loop back to talking about time management, ability to prioritize, and problem solving. So that's how we'll start with these, and then those other soft skills sometimes come up through them. So those are some of the other soft skills that help you stand out if you're looking to continue your development. All right, so as an HR practitioner and HR professional, most of what I do is built around some sort of framework or some sort of regulation, or we stack it somehow so that we can organize it. And so as we think about building these soft skills in order to propel your career, building soft skills so that you can get that promotion, so that you can get that client, what we want to do is remember and commit to a cycle. And so before I share with you those, the areas that we want to work on today, I wanted to just remind you, and a good refresher for myself as well, that when we work in this framework model for building our best self, building our best leader, building our best team member, building our best business, what we really want to do here is we want to take time out to work within a cycle. So we want to commit first. We want to make a commitment to work on a particular soft skill or work on development in a particular area in our profession. So commit, come up with a plan, jump in and practice. Once we start practicing, then we know what kind of support we need. I want you to celebrate your success and your growth along the way. And then I want you to get back to it and repeat it so that you can have continued growth. So regardless of which soft skill or area of professional development you are working on, this framework is one that I hope you'll keep in mind, that we have to make an outward commitment and then be methodical about it. I'm thinking about my daughter. She's learning ukulele right now, and she's doing it virtually through an online class. Her teacher, Kim, she said to the kids in the first class, listen, I realize that you don't have a lick of experience playing the ukulele other than picking a few strings at home. But by the end of our class, if you can commit to it, if you plan to practice every day and you show up for class so you can get support, you will be able to play whichever song you select at the end of our class cycle. And that was true. So Sophia just learned how to play Happy Birthday on the ukulele, and she does a beautiful island strum. So I know it works. I've seen it in action, and I promise you this is, how I got through everything from, not dropping out of my master's program when it got hard or seeking my HR certification. So let's do it. All right. The first thing that we're going to talk about here is capitalizing on our strengths, or doing being the best that we can be in our own most natural way. And that's something that I think is important for us as we grow our careers, that we shouldn't try to be somebody else. As successful professionals, as successful team members and entrepreneurs or business leaders, we don't have to replace somebody else. What we need to do to rise to the top is be irreplaceable as ourselves, be irreplaceable and be different. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is capitalizing on your natural style and making the most out of every day. And what I want to focus on here, we're going to talk about what you would expect when somebody says time management in just a second. But first, I want to talk about energy management, because each of us is built a certain way in sort of physically built, right? Like people often ask, are you a morning person or a night person? Are you a night owl, right? Early bird or a night owl? And you can feel free to drop that too in the chat. Are you early birds or night owls out there? And what we have to do is recognize that being an early bird or a night owl, that is a real thing. That when we are feeling most productive in the morning, that's because that's how our body was built. My husband is a night owl, like literally also grew up outside of Hoboken, New Jersey, started his evenings at 11 p.m. to go to New York City and go to clubs. And I'm from the Midwest and was, had 2 jobs in college and went to bed at 8 o'clock so I could get up at 5. So, we choose, I think, sometimes based on what our natural style is, but I'll still find him, watching movies and stuff like that at 2 in the morning, like, what's going on? I don't understand. But he's a night owl. That's his thing. So when you're feeling like you are a certain way, capitalize on it. So when we think about how to do that, first we need to look at our natural style and we have to measure it. So a 24-hour cycle is called a circadian day. So if you've ever heard of that before, you pat yourself on the back or whatever you do to feel proud. So what we want to do is we want to tap into and measure what is your most natural 24-hour cycle. Now, this 24-hour cycle, it happens in smaller blocks or 90-minute blocks that are called ultradian cycles. So every 90 minutes, all day long, we are cycling through our natural style. And so the manner in which we cycle in and out is called our ultradian rhythm, okay? And at the start of each ultradian cycle, that's where your brain is most energetic and most focused. And so what I want us to be able to do is be methodical about measuring when is your best time to be most productive. And we do that because, we might have just a feeling about it. We might just feel, like I said, I feel like I'm a morning person. I love getting up and seeing the sunrise. But I also know that if I sit down at my computer at 6:30 or 7, that I can power through about 3 hours and just blink my eyes and feel like no time passed. It just feels so productive. But sit me down at 3 p.m. And you're probably not going to get that much out of me. And let me tell you a funny marketing story. Well, I was in marketing 245 or something like that at ASU, just a marketing class for my minor. And it was at 2:45 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays at ASU, so hour and 15-minute class, okay? I have my notebook from that class, and I fell asleep in that class more than once. And so my notes, I'm taking my notes, and then all of a sudden on the page, it just goes, and the pencil slides off because I must have really dipped out. So I learned my lesson over time. I did not take classes at that time. I was burned out. And, a lot of what we're sort of cycling through our day, a lot of it is just natural sort of energy cycles, whether or not I am a morning person or a night owl. I need more sleep or I don't. I need to take a break or whatever. But this other piece of it that if you're peeking at your screen now, you're seeing that our emotions, when we have high emotions, that can actually drain our energy a great deal. And so we have to remember that as we go through our natural cycles, that also we should be careful not to tackle tough conversations when we're in a low part of our cycle, because we are not emotionally strong enough to do it. We're not physically strong enough to handle an emotional conversation. And this quote from a Psychology Today article that talks about energy management says, one of the main reasons for our mental exhaustion is high intensity emotion. So I said, okay, well, what the heck is a high intensity emotion? So of course, when we look at it, high intensity emotions can be positive or negative. And I think about when I think about a drain, I think, oh, that must be something really like sad, or I might be anxious, or I might be upset or scared. But no, it's on the other side too. Like after this session, I could have a nap because I'm going to have been super excited to be here with you today. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share the information that I gathered, and I'm excited to see your questions and visit the chat in a little bit. So it could be a positive or a negative high emotion, high intensity emotion that could be draining us. And so we have to be careful to plan our days around that to the extent that we can. Of course, when we work in service to one another on teams and we work in service to our clients and communities, it's not always possible to do that. But at least if you have a vote or you have a say, like when I get to plan meetings, I usually plan them for 10 a.m. so that I can be at the top of a cycle. And then, you go from there. But measuring how you're feeling throughout the day, taking the time and really, and I don't want to use the word taking the time, I'd rather say investing the time in learning about your cycle and being aware of how you feel throughout the day is going to be a great investment in really deciding when to do what. And we're going to talk about priorities in just a minute here. So when we are looking at managing our energy, managing our tasks, of course, there are 1,000,001 different ways to handle your tasks and keep track of your tasks. And so in addition to looking at and analyzing, and let's call it auditing your energy, doing an energy audit, I also want you to audit and think about all of the possibilities that exist when you think about how you track your time and track your tasks and track your responsibilities. So again, maybe over in the chat, drop in what you are using now as your primary mechanism, your primary method for keeping track of your responsibilities and your tasks and your assignments. And you can also in there, if you want to tell us, is it working for you? Or are you looking for something else? I think that that's important too, because just like most tools and techniques and things like that, when something works today, it might not work in the future. And so I think, again, continual analysis is what I am doing currently working is going to be super important. So I'm going to make a confession, and then I'm going to show you too. I have a paper planner. So go ahead and give me your faces of shock. Let me scroll through the gallery here. Look at the gallery. Let me see them. Put your videos on. I need to see your faces. All right. So yeah, I do. I have a paper planner. I have an electronic calendar too, right? I have a link that people can click on to schedule time with me, my clients and friends. I have an Outlook calendar that's wonderful, and I couldn't live without it. But for me, in order to actually physically remember what I need to do, I go through and I write down my calls and my appointments where I need to show up somewhere. I write those down in my paper planner. I don't keep my to-do list in my paper planner, that lives electronically. But if I need to be somewhere without a doubt, if I need to show up and not forget about it, I need to go through the physical act of writing it down so that I can remember to be there. And that's just me. And I know, I might be a endangered species at this point, because of course we can rely on reminders and things like that to some extent. But I know for me that when I engage in the physical act of writing, that I have better retention. And not to, not to always side with the academics, but there's also a Harvard study that says that we do have different brain mapping, and we have different learning impact when we take physical notes than when we type them, or when we just watch and look at somebody else's notes. So test it out yourself. If you're feeling like you have missed an appointment or missed a deadline or something like that, maybe the idea that you do have a small paper planner or something like that to get you back on track, I would say give it a whirl. Anything is worth experimenting with in order to make improvements where you feel like they are needed. I also love electronic notes and voice memos. I make voice memos for everything. When I have a thought and I'm not sure how I'm going to use it, or I need to apply it to a project or a communication or a meeting I'm going to have, I'll often just grab my phone and I will make a voice note, because one of the things I know about myself too is that when I excel at my work, it's often spoken work. I do a lot of writing, but when I'm going to write a blog post or an article for a magazine or something like that, I'll often just talk about it first. and use a voice note. So whatever it is that helps you to get your thoughts together, get them out, move them around, experiment with it. Definitely experiment with it. I know lots of us have, smart speakers and things like that. We do try to use our Alexa at home for personal stuff. So we'll try to put reminders on there if we're going to be, if someone has an appointment or we need to do something as a family. So I keep some of it separate. Our appointments go onto the Alexa. So, bottom line here, don't get stuck in one method. When we go from job to job, we'll often be challenged to move into and use a different mechanism for work too. And so that's the other thing. I think one of the others, the other soft skills I mentioned already was flexibility. So as you move from place to place, we use Slack in my business to communicate and to share information, but we have Outlook calendars. And there's some integrations available, but lots of my clients use Microsoft Teams. People use Asana and all sorts of other project management and tracking platforms. So be flexible, but try to make sure that you're finding the best mechanism for you. All right. Some other things to think about as you are approaching an audit of your time management skills and an audit of your energy management effectiveness. My nutritionist and my coach, she's a health coach and she's an actual nutritionist. That's her area of study and things like that. But she's always encouraging me to go to bed 15 minutes earlier or go to bed 15 minutes earlier and get up 15 minutes earlier as well. And so that's something that from a personal effectiveness standpoint, it feels like you bought yourself some time when you do that. So if you haven't tried, kind of playing around with it a little bit, when you're giving yourself a little bit more time on the starting part of your day, it alleviates that anxiety that you're rushing into things. And so that idea that we want to wake up 15 minutes earlier, extend that thinking too when we think about personal and professional effectiveness. Start arriving to meetings 5 or 10 minutes earlier. Plan on that because we never know what's going to come up in the last minute that might delay us. And so, if you're scooting into meetings at the very last second all the time, sometimes it's absolutely inevitable. But lots of times it's just because we didn't stop doing what we needed to stop doing a little bit sooner. So as we work on that time management and energy management, starting a little bit earlier might be helpful. Of course, hopefully you're looking at your calendar, looking at your task list and refreshing in the morning so that you know what's ahead of you. And then the next thing that I want you to do is think about this. We all run into times where we are in a crunch. All of us run into that, where we've either overcommitted or we've under budgeted, right? Like we under budget the amount of time something is going to take us to complete. I will often be on a client call and it's going 5 minutes over and I've given myself a buffer for my next call, but it's going to get close. And so I hate having to send that email out like, I'm still, wrapping up my previous call. I'll be with you as soon as possible. Feels awful to send that out. So we have to keep ourselves calm though. So I would like you all to practice with me, get in the practice here of having a mantra to keep yourself focused. And so my time and energy management mantra is simply that I will always have the time and resources to complete everything that I need to do. And that's it. I just tell myself that. When I get stressed about it, I will always have it. It's without a doubt, I'm going to figure it out, right? So I'll always have the time and the resources to accomplish everything that I need to accomplish. Sometimes that means I have to do a little bit of adjustment in my schedule, but I know that I'll get it done. And that level of confidence is important. So think about the times that you struggle with task management or time management or even energy management. What's something that you could tell yourself to get yourself back on track reliably? So what's a way that you could reinforce the skills that you have? So feel free to jot it down if you got pen and paper, or if you want to drop it in the chat to encourage other people to come on the journey with you. I think that when, and I'm not going as far as like Saturday Night Live skits and stuff like that, like I'm, what do you say? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and people like me. Yeah, we're not going that far. We're not getting the mirror out. But when we can encourage our own success through the commitment and through the physical act of either writing it down or saying it, we know that there is a level of effectiveness there that increases. All right. All right, here's our first takeaway for today. So I'm gonna hop out of the presentation and share my screen, and it will be a PDF. And so I'm hoping, Taylor, that you pop on and you tell me if I messed it up too bad.
So far, so good. Keep it up.
All right, thanks. Positive reinforcement, thank you.
Yes.
No. All right, wonderful. Okay, so if you can see my screen, then you can see a quick and simple worksheet that says capitalizing on your natural style and getting it all done. Can you see that?
We still see the PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
So
I'm
you want
going
to make
back
sure
for
that
it.
you're selecting.
I'm going to it. I got you. Better?
Still the power up. Boom.
No.
There it is. I just had to wait a second.
Patience is also a virtue, right? Yeah, I don't have a lot of it, so let me know how you figure that out. Okay, so if you're going to commit to an energy audit, if you're going to look at capitalizing on your natural style, this is a simple worksheet that you can use to do that. And I want to say that either these worksheets are being shared with you, or they're dropped in the chat, or they're somewhere that will make them accessible to you. So it's simply hours of the day. You're going to rate how you're feeling, 5 being excellent, 1 being poor. How's your focus? How's your enthusiasm? And overall, how's your energy? And then make some simple notes about what you were doing, what you encountered, what were you working on, things like that. And then you're going to go back at the end of a couple days. I would say do this for at least 2 to 3 days. So at least 2 to 3 days so that you can build a pattern. Because of course, 1-day snapshot is fine, but what we're looking for really here is a pattern. So if you really want to make an impact on your effectiveness on a day-to-day basis and managing your energy so that you can get the most done and you can feel very positive about it, like you spent your time on the right things at the right time, this is a great way to audit your activities and then audit how you are feeling so that you can identify the best time to get certain activities completed. All right. Taylor, do we want to pause, ask for questions now, go over anything on this particular topic before we move to part 2, or are we doing everything at the end? Just remind me, I'm flexible.
That is completely up to you. Typically, we like to save them for the end just because we want to make sure we have enough time to get through all your wonderful content. And I already have a few questions jotted down. So if we just want to continue, then we'll just, come back and answer these questions afterwards.
You bet. Got it. All right. Okay. So let's cruise here. We're going to be moving into part 2, kicking off with a quote from Albert Einstein that says, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." And so for my part, especially in human resources and helping people build effective teams, we have really tough decisions to make on a daily basis. And those tough decisions can sometimes feel just like par for the course, right? And when we are in the midst of it, it can also be debilitating. So we get comfortable making tough decisions. We might sometimes get paralyzed by it, depending on what's going on. And so based on a million different factors, we want to be prepared. We want to be prepared to make tough decisions and engage in creative problem solving so that regardless of the problem, of what the problem is that's thrown at us, that we are able to overcome it. We are able to determine, best next step. And when I think about building a strategy, a lifestyle around problem solving, I really think that we have to become comfortable with the idea that problems and conflicts are a cornerstone of success. Problems and conflicts are to be expected at every turn in our work, in our business, in our professional lives, and in our personal lives. Because problems are how we innovate, problems are how we improve. And to the extent that everything's just fine and we don't do anything differently, we might not have conflict, we might not have problems, but we also aren't going to get any better. If we're just going for status quo, fine. But if you're looking to really make a boom here, make an impact in your career and in your organization, then let's get really comfortable with problems. Let's get really comfortable with conflict. And the quote that I put up here I really like is that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. And so again, we're going to have conflict on a regular basis. It's part of our normal lives. Let's get going with it. So creative problem solving is, again, a process. And when we endeavor to solve our biggest problems, it's important to try to keep it simple, but again, to be methodical. And I think that, again, I mean, I studied through my MBA. I maintain 3 different HR certifications. We can learn complex things. I know you all learn complex things. You learn systems. You have specialized skills in marketing that you apply on a daily basis. But when we get a problem dropped in our lap, and it's a big problem, a particularly challenging problem, we can get off track with simple problem solving. Or another thing that could happen is when a problem is dropped in our lap, we forget that we are already equipped to engage in this productive, creative, successful problem solving process. And so when you are embarking to solve a problem, I want you to think about doing it in, again, this methodical way, and with your team members, or up the chain to your boss, or whoever you work with, you know, up or down the line here, guys. I want you to share the process with people to the extent that it strengthens clarity, or to the extent that it strengthens buy-in in the solution. And so let's not feel like we should just jump in and throw our solutions at people all the time, but let's also talk about the process that we're going through so that folks can have confidence in the solution that you come up with. We want people to have confidence that you have gone through the process of determining what the root cause is and what the best solutions are, that it wasn't just, you know, darts in the dark, right? You're not just deciding to just pitch it at the wall, see what sticks, but that you had a process for determining what the best next step would be. So breaking it down just a little bit here, we want to clarify. Seems super simple, right? But we forget to do this often. We really skip past this part. When we want to clarify the goal, the challenge, the problem, we want to be able to describe it in detail. And I say 100 or so words to describe it, or that's usually sufficient. Often this helps me even in my client work when I get a question from a client and I think I know what they need, or I think I know what they want, team member or client. It's really helpful to say, okay, I'll work on that. And so what I'll be researching is this, or what the question I'll be answering is this. Does that sound correct? And there have been plenty of times where someone says, you know what, it's actually a little bit different. I want you to go in a little bit different direction with it. And so we don't want to burn all the oil before we clarify what the problem is. So let's clarify first. Again, it might seem elementary. It is not elementary to clarify the problem. It's the only way to make sure that the solution that you are building is going to match up with the challenge. Next, we're going to ideate. So first we clarify, and then we explore ideas, we research, we gather information from multiple sources, and that helps us to get clarity on what might answer our question, or it might help us meet our goal or our challenge. And when we think about exploring ideas, I have found it to be a great tool for building relationships, to give people to share these ideas. And so often when I talk with folks about the solution, I might say, okay, we have a variety of ways we could approach this, and I try to share 3. So I often try to share 3 different approaches or ideas that I have for solving a problem. The first one is usually don't do anything. That's usually the first thing that you could do is nothing, right? And then the next thing you could do is maybe a conservative approach to solving a problem. And then the next thing is the very brave and very, risky approach to solving a problem. That's how HR works. We talk about do nothing, coach somebody, or fire them, right? There's an example, but we have to first clarify what the goal is and then share those ideas. And then once we decide what we want to do, so let's say that we are talking about something that I do every day, which is handling employee separations. I have an employee, my client calls and they say, Nikki, I have this employee that they just are not meeting our goals. They're not signing new clients, and so we need to let them go. And I say, okay, well, here are a few ideas that we can work on. We can either just see what happens over the rest of the quarter. We can coach and counsel them, maybe give them some training, or you can let them go today, unless you have a reason, a contract not to let them go, right? And then they say, okay, Nikki, we want to work with them for a little bit. And I say, all right, so if you want to work with them, we can put them on a plan for improvement. That might seem really like a lot of architecture around it. Maybe you want to be more casual. So maybe we just want to sit down and have a really productive heart-to-heart, and they want to go to training. Or maybe you want to do an evaluation, and so that they really know honest to goodness, what you think of their work right now. So those are 3 possible solutions, right? I have this problem, my employee's not performing. Here are 3 ways we could approach it. Now we know we want to coach, counsel, and help them. Now, how do we do that? Let's pick the right vehicle. So we develop those possible solutions, and then we pick something, and we select that option that's best. So again, the idea that we would rush into problem solving is a betrayal of the process, right? And I know that it might seem like you would have to just be spinning your wheels and it would take a long time, but it really doesn't. Whatever the problems are that face you, they are your natural problems that you encounter at work. You get very good at going through the process, but the fact that you're methodical about it, it leads to, it gives you credibility in the problem solving process. So when you can talk someone through the process that you are using to solve a problem or select a solution, it lends itself to them trusting you more, because they know that it's not just a hunch or a gut feeling, because hunches and gut feelings we know are not always good for business, okay? So the fact that you could walk someone through this will help them to build trust in you and your skills. And then you jump in, you implement, and I always talk about making adjustments. So you have to take action, whatever your problem is. You're going to break your problem or your issue down, your solution now, into actionable steps, and then just get to work. But don't be mindless about it. Let's be mindful and make sure that you adjust course if needed. So back in the develop stage, maybe I had 3 ideas of ways to tackle my problem. We chose idea 2, but I take action, and it just doesn't feel like it's going to get us where we need to go. So then I need to be honest about it. I need to be upfront. I need to take responsibility. I need to be accountable for the fact that maybe I selected the wrong solution, and I need to speak up and say, you know what? After a couple of days of working on this, it doesn't feel like it's the right one based on my experience, my conversation, additional research, whatever it is. Come to the table, propose an adjustment, okay? So again, this methodical process, although it seems simple, is a way to build trust and credibility within your team. So I hope that you can use the idea that it's a step-by-step, and it is a way to talk people through, also a way to get buy-in and get people on board when you are working in a group or a team setting as well. All right, so those are our 4 steps for creative problem solving. And I'm going to hop back out of here. I'm going to swap out my screen in a second. I'm going to remember to do that. And I'm going to share with you. All right, here it comes, Taylor. Boom, is it there? Yes. All right, action plan template. So again, might seem simple, but goodness gracious, I promise you, I mean, I've been full-time running my business for 5 years now. We just had our 5-year anniversary. And when I need to tackle something, I take out my action plan template and I write it down. So what is my goal? And then what do I need to actually physically do to accomplish it? So what actions do I need to take, or activities should I engage in? What skills do I need? Maybe there's a skill that I need that I don't have yet, like working on my website. There's a good example. And I'm sure like 15 people here that could help me get to the right person to help me with my website. But I've dabbled in trying to fix things on my own website before and discovered that I just don't know how to do it. I have skills that I haven't developed yet, right? So then I need resources. Sometimes those resources are other consultants that I could work with. I need feedback sources. I need people to go look at what I'm working on and say, does this look okay? What am I missing, right? Who can help me? Make a list of people that you can touch base with, that you trust to give you good advice. They're knowledgeable. And then what's my deadline? Stick with your deadline, okay? So your goals, break them down into activities that you're going to be able to engage in order to problem solve or accomplish that next step. All right, swapping back. Give me 1 second here. Come on. All right, are we there? Yes. All right, part 3, let's do it. All right, so you can't be that kid standing at the top of the water slide overthinking it. You have to go down the chute. Anybody know who said that? Any ideas? No ideas? Let's see. I can't see the chat. Sorry, guys. It's Tina Fey.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, Tina Fey says, you can't be that kid standing at the top of the water slide, overthinking it. You got to go down the chute. So once we know that there's a problem or an issue, we've got a little bit of a framework to work through here when we determine, let's get a program in place for fixing it. Let's get to, let's get our tactics in place. Once we decide that we're going to take action, though, we realize that we have competing priorities. And so how do we get to the point that we know which things to put on the list first, second, and third? So has anybody ever seen this matrix before? If you shake your head, if you have, raise your hand maybe. Yeah, the Eisenhower matrix. So Eisenhower made a speech sometime in the 50s, and he was talking about, making decisions about what to do and what to just completely throw to the side, okay? And so that's how it got the name. And then we've, of course, put a little bit of a grid to it. So when we are determining what do I need to handle first, second, and third in order to be successful at work, be happy in my life, meet all of my obligations to everyone in the world, we want to be able to determine what is most urgent and important. So that's your top left on your grid there, the number one. What is urgent and important? And I'm going to be totally old school and honest with you again, that if I am feeling anxious, like when I have many projects coming due, and I have clients that have questions coming in, just normal day-to-day stuff, but I'm working also on lots of projects, and my kids need me, and my horse is, I don't know, gotten out of the gate or something. Who knows what it could be, right? I really have horses at home. They really do get out of the gate, and then they eat my citrus trees. That's a different story for a different day, though. I mean, sometimes I'm looking at my life and I'm like, I don't even know. Should I just throw my hands up in the air and say, forget it all for the rest of the day and crawl in a hole? Or do I get out my Post-it notes? So again, old school. I get a piece of paper, I draw this grid on it, and I figure out what I'm going to tackle, like exactly what has to be done today before I go to bed, because I feel like it's a way to regain control of what's going on when I have competing priorities. And if you never feel like that, we need to have our virtual coffee sometime soon, because most folks that I run into are juggling a lot right now, whether it is a different environment to work from, children who are going to school in a different environment, businesses that are shifting, changing, pivoting to meet the world where it is right now. But deciding what is urgent and important is our number one. So we put things into that box, that category for a number one. When I make my list of things that need to be accomplished for the next couple of days, and again, this is a short term, right? This is not your long-term planning. This is not your action plan for an entire project. This is literally when you're feeling like my energy is not right, my task list is out of control. What do I do? So number one is obvious. Number two, if you have something important to do, but it has a deadline in the future, you can put that on a plan for another day. So you plan it. Number three is something that is urgent, but it's not very important, right? Like sometimes I have, for example, in my business, we help our clients with employment verifications, right? Those are urgent and they're important. So those go first. Sometimes somebody just needs to verify employment though, not for maybe a mortgage, but a new job that they're getting, right? And so those are super important, but I have a few days to do them. And then sometimes I have an employee just call and say, I don't know when I started and I don't really need it. I'm just trying to update my records. And I say, okay, well that's, we'll get that to you. I'm going to delegate that though to one of my team members and they're going to send that over, because it's nothing's hanging in the balance. It's just an FYI, right? And then if you find that you still have things facing you that are not urgent and not important, I really want you to consider how you can eliminate them and do it tactfully. If you've made a commitment, maybe to give feedback on a project for a friend or volunteer for a nonprofit or something like that. And it's really just, it's stopping you from feeling like you have control of your time and you can get everything done. It is sometimes important to eliminate those items. So try the Eisenhower matrix. Again, this is sort of a crisis tactic if you're feeling like you're having a rough go of it, give it a try. And then when we think about more methodical approach, because this is where we want to be, all of us want to be in this more methodical planning place, I want you to just take a look at this little flow chart that I put together next. And in order to do it, I want you to simply, scratch down on a piece of paper right now, or you can drop it in the chat if you want to share some commitments with the group here. What is a top priority for the rest of 2020? Or what's the next priority, or what's the top priority for the next year, the next 12 months or 24 months? A big one. You know, what is your biggest top priority right now? Think about that, okay? That top priority goes at the top of this flow down chart. This is our cascade, our waterfall. So you're going to align your goals and your priorities with your tasks. So we're going to be backing into these other things that we've talked about here. So we've got our top priority. Maybe we're building out a new part of our business or a team. Maybe we are working on a client project that's just a spectacular long-term project that's going to take us for the next 12 months. That's our top priority. So that's the top. Next, we go into our 90-day goal. So we say, what is our objective for the next 90 days? What do I need to be completing to move myself significantly toward accomplishing that top priority? Then we can split off into projects beyond there. Those are our 30-day projects, things I can check off the list in the next 30 days. And I'm going to tell you, 30 days never have gone so fast in my life except since last March. I mean, every time I turn around, it's another month. And I was looking at our calendar, looking at next week, and I was like, no way. How is it possibly going to be the middle of August? It's not physically, humanly, earthly possible. But anyway, 30-day projects are like breezing past right now. 30-day project. With those 30-day projects, you have to set a weekly goal. And with those weekly goals, you need probably 3 tasks a day that are going to help propel you. So breaking it down into these bite-sized pieces is a great way to keep yourself committed, keep yourself honest here. So you make the commitment, and it then trickles down, it cascades down into your goal setting. And I am positive that all of us have heard about SMART goals, right? At this point in our lives, a billion times. How many times have you heard about SMART goals? A trillion, bazillion? All right, well, I'm going to show you my little worksheet here, and you can have it because I put it. It's fun. It's a fancy, fun one. Okay. So SMART goals. Summarize your goal. Short summary. 100 words or less. Okay. And also, this is my side box here. Why are you doing it? Is it in alignment with your values? Is it in alignment with your strategic plan or your annual plan for your organization? If not, why are you doing it? If it's not, okay, just check your why. And then be specific, dig into the details. This is where we start to break in, and then we can go off into that cascading timeline. How are you going to measure it? Is it attainable? Are you being realistic, right? And then is it relevant to something larger, personal, something like that? So this is just a little talk you through it again, right? So if you don't have a handy SMART goal sheet, this one is here for you now. Again, not recreating the wheel, but as someone who has just studied until my face is blue, I would go back to school and study if it was free. I would get a PhD in something. Like, there is one, I'll tell you what it is. It's called organizational philosophy, because I'm a big nerd. I would get a PhD in organizational philosophy, and you would all be looking at me like, nerd, and I would love it. But regardless of what we learn and what we can accomplish in our, in our grand part of our lives, if we don't get back to these simple tactics with our soft skills and with just the practice of managing our professional and personal development, we can seriously overcomplicate it. So let's close up shop today for my part. You guys ready? Let me get us back over here to the other screen. Thank you for your patience. Are we back, Taylor?
Looks like we are on the PowerPoint. It says SMART Goals worksheet.
Okay, all right, really good. So before we close up shop and go to questions, I just wanted to give you a couple of principles that I live by in my business and in my life, that when we focus on being our best self, building our best self around our businesses and our homes, again, I believe that trickles out into our communities, and it makes our communities great places to live. And these are some of the principles that I use on a daily basis to make decisions that help me guide what I'm going to work on. And I know that over time that these decisions have helped me to be successful at work. So first thing is give people your time, like today. I'm actually up in Sedona. I'm on vacation with my family, and we're creekside at Oak Creek. But there was nothing that I was going to, there was nothing that we could have planned today that would have pulled me away from wanting to do this. So I'm super thankful to be here. Give people your time. You know, if you can help one person smile or feel good about their next step, you know, I feel like that's an investment that pays back a million times. Learn to give and take feedback at work and personal life. That's super important, you know, as we grow in our careers. I think for me anyway, it's become more evident that I want feedback. I want people to help me to see the best way to do it. I want people to show me the best way to serve a client or to serve, you know, the people around me. Be trusting of others, learn to trust others. You know, it's hard sometimes because people do burn us from time to time. But when we can step out in trust, that is how we build relationships, when we show trust. So I am of the, you know, maybe the naive crowd that trusts people until they give me a reason not to. Treat others the way you want to be treated, says my grandma. So keep it up. Manage your mobile technology and learn pitfalls. That's something that's super important for us right now, especially with our remote work environment. We are on the go. We are in strange places. We are on vacation working, all that sort of thing. And, you know, I think that we have to learn to capitalize on it, but also learn its pitfalls. So when you're thinking about energy management, a big piece of that is, when am I using my technology and how is that interrupting my natural flow of energy? And then accept and celebrate differences around you. I'm just an advocate for diversity, justice, and equality in life. And so, you know, I want to encourage you to build your network with people that are not like you. Build your network full of people that have skills and abilities and experiences that you have never and may never experience. And that will help us to build the strongest, you know, just the strongest network, the strongest community out there. I have extra credit for you if you want a couple books to read, if you haven't read them already. A couple of my favorites. Eat That Frog's a great book that talks about how prioritizing, getting the most important thing done. Clockwork's a great book. And my friend Amber De La Garza has a podcast that's called Productivity Straight Talk that I recommend. Woo! We made it. Yay.
Excellent work. Oh my goodness. So much information. Love it. We just have a few questions that came in. So, you know, as you're absorbing everything that you just heard, if you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. One was, does anyone transfer their written notes to a digital form, and what works and what doesn't? This person is currently using LiveScribe, but it's not working for them. So do you have a suggestion for a software that might transfer written notes into a digital form easily?
You know what? I don't use one. Sorry. So I don't have a personal recommendation, but I just had a conversation in an entrepreneur group that I'm a member of, and there were a couple of recommendations that keep coming up. So I'm going to keep that question, Taylor. I'm going to send you a note later. But if there's anybody else out there using something, I would love to hear that too and add it to my list.
Okay, so when Nikki provides that, I'll include it in the email with the documents you've already provided me, Nikki.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, I know the gals were talking about it, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, because I am still notebooks and pencils.
Hey, I'm on that same boat too. I do not live without writing it down, you know, right there.
Yeah.
So just two other quick questions then. You know, time management and prioritizing your tasks can be a little bit harder to do from home than when you're in the structure of your office. So in addition to utilizing the sheets that you provided, what are some other quick little tips that you could share in order to stay more productive and focused while at home?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have an office in Gilbert that I rarely go to unless we have a reason to need a place to meet outside of my client's place of business. So I'm going to be honest, I've been a virtual employee for 5 years in my own business, but also I worked for Paychex for 5.5 years, and I was a virtual employee when I worked for them too. And so the most important things that I learned along the way, one was figure out my energy flow. So like we said, you know, think about that, use the worksheet if it works for you. Otherwise, find some other way to really be honest with yourself about your best times. Stick to your schedule, write out a schedule for yourself, because we are creatures of habit. Humans are people, you know, humans are creatures that really thrive on habit and structure, whether we want to maybe admit it or not. You know, some of us are more spontaneous than others. Have a schedule and try to stick to it. But then also create space and rituals that make sense for you. So within your home, if you don't have a designated work area, an office, create a workspace that you do designate as your workspace, and then move something into it on a daily basis that is the transition point, okay? So I have a friend that she has a really cool, like a desk organizer, and it's kind of like a tray. It's a beautiful tray. It's made like a wooden tray, and it has a pencil holder in it and has her Post-it notes and things like that. And she carries that over to her kitchen table. And the act of bringing it over is the start of her workday, and that transitions the space for her. So come up with and use the space that is best for you. You will find things in working from home that, like, for example, the sun shines really bright and hot in particular areas of your house at different times of day. So if you set up your office in a spot where you're going to burn up and combust at, 2 p.m., be careful for that. But find a space that works for you and have a ritual that sort of starts that work time, and then make that your designated space and announce it to your people. If you have other people in your home, family, friends, things like that, announce to them that, when I'm in this space, this is my work time. So please, be respectful of that. And if you do have a door you can close, even better. And I just saw, I think on my Instagram feed, this thing that has an on-air blinking wireless that you can stick to the door so your people don't barge in behind you. Yeah. So, you can come up with little strategies like that.
Excellent. Those are such great tips. And the last question was, some tips that they can give their employees. And I feel you just answered that, because
Awesome.
A lot of, workplaces are now having employees that are still going to continue working remotely. How can you help them to be more successful? And all of those notes, whether you're a solopreneur or an employee, are all really great. So thank you so much, Niki. This was wonderful.
You bet, Taylor. It's been my pleasure. And I'll send you, Anna, to send out with the other stuff. I created a handout for leaders on how to conduct the most effective virtual one-on-ones with their employees. So I'll send that too. So if you have leaders in the group that could benefit from that, you share that as much as you'd like. Yeah,
fantastic.
It's totally
so
different.
Everybody, Niki has already shared the presentation and a couple of worksheets, and then she's going to provide us with this other one. So once I have that, I will look to share it probably this weekend sometime, even before the video is ready. I think I'll just get that information out quicker. And Niki, again, thank you very much. This information was fantastic. I know some key takeaways for me that I know I don't do is being intentional with getting yourself and keeping yourself on track. You have to make the time to do that. Having enough time and having enough resources, scheduling enough time and resources. And then even with problem solving, another key takeaway is using a process. If you can get yourself through a process, you can have an easier time problem solving. So thank you very much. I'm going to keep this and remind myself that I need to do this so I don't always feel so harried and, jumping from call to call, minute to minute, and rather be organized. So just want to real quick, everybody, next event is a lunchtime event, Wednesday, August 26th. Maria Lipp, who is the founder of Spotlight Media Services, will be talking on multicultural marketing, bridging the gap with the Hispanic community. That is a segment of audience that if they are not your current customers, you really need to be at this webinar, because it is some great information and it's some low-hanging fruit for driving revenue. So please join us. And then as you can see, we've got the next 3 other events up there as well. I hope to see you all on Wednesday, August 26th. Thank you for joining us here. Again, we'd like to thank our sponsors. We can't do this without them. And Taylor, again, thank you very much. Want to mention real quick that if you need video, please talk to Taylor. And again, we thank our supporters, and take a look at our website, amaphoenix.org. The next event is up and ready to register. So we hope to see you on August 26th. Thanks, and we hope to see you soon, and can't wait to see you all in person again someday soon. Have a great rest of the evening, everyone.